Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. We are on the phone live with the man, the legend, Mr. Zabaker.
That's close enough. It's Zabkar.
Zabkar. And you know what's hilarious is that I just asked you.
You know what? As long as you're in the ballpark, that's fine with me. I have no problem with that.
So we're talking today about the Scenario Paintball Players Guild.
Yeah.
So Ryan and I joined when you first opened the guild, and it's a really cool thing, but I don't think a lot of people know about it. So tell us a little bit about what is the Scenario Role Players Guild?
Well, the Scenario Role Players Guild is basically just a repository and area for role players who attend various producers' events to come in, interact, share ideas, maybe do a little role-playing on the boards, and just basically connect with other role players to promote that aspect of the sport within the scenario community. I guess would be a good way to put it.
Nice. And how did you decide to start the guild?
Well, I've been playing paintball for almost 20 years now, and I got into scenario paintball. And at first, I did the usual, just shoot 'em up and run around and run and gun, and it was okay. But I started getting into more of the role-playing aspect and the storytelling, and I found I really, really enjoyed it. And at the time, I had a group of guys with me, and we would all dress up as the same, type of characters, and go out there and just roll through the teams and develop a name for ourselves. But we started to find out, as the economy changed and people got older and things like that, that the scenario aspect started to drift away from the sport itself. It just seemed like there was not a lot of people playing roles. Or when they did role-playing, it was more or less just a theme, basically like if everybody wore red on one side and everybody wore blue on the other.
Right, they weren't really getting into
the role. To me, that's just not real role-playing. Real role-playing is basically playing out a role-playing game on the field. So I'd been talking to one of the producers, and I decided I was going to start the guild. It's just to see what kind of interest I could get in people that wanted to be a little bit more theatrical in the games. And as it started, I had a core of about 4 or 5 people, and we would get together and talk about ideas, and then it evolved into prop building. It evolved into, essentially acting. And now, what we're doing now is we actually develop characters along with the storylines from character sheets, just like you would in a game environment, but we're actually doing it live. And then we also incorporate props, and we write some of our own missions to correspond with the producer's ideas on where they want the games to go. And mostly we just provide, I guess, seasoning for the games. We try to make the costumes and props very visual, so that when players are out on the field, they can actually move into the game much deeper and actually live out, somebody else's life for a weekend, rather than just, okay, we're just playing paintball and everybody's dressed like army men. No, you're actually entering onto the field, and you might enter into a different time or a different era or a different genre, like science fiction or cyberpunk or post-apocalyptic or prehistoric. We try to incorporate something more visual on the field so people can kind of have something to play off of. We actually think of ourselves as living props.
Right. A lot of people take the misconception that a scenario game is just a bunch of people dressed up in costumes, and they forget all about the role-playing aspect of the game, and the whole purpose is to further the storyline, and that's how you win, not by shooting people. There's no points for killing people. Exactly.
And in a story, every good story, you think back to when you were a kid or your favorite movie, what's the one thing that grabbed you in the story? Well, it was the characters. Well, now we have characters on the field, and that helps promote the industry at large, because people are starting to remember. They were starting to pick up on who shows up for the games, and people are actually looking forward to it. And it's generating interest and buzz, and they want to actually get into it and start role-playing themselves.
What's if you had to pick one thing that you like the most about role-playing, what would it be?
Well, I've always been somewhat of a ham, and I honestly love the attention. I like to make people laugh. I like to make people think. I might be walking around, let's say, dressed up in a particular costume as a creature, and they'll come up to me and start talking to me like, "Hey, Mike, what's going on?" Well, I won't break character, and I'll speak to them as the character. And if they approach me in the parking lot, I'll speak to them as the character. And I've gone entire games where I haven't broke character until I left. And it's really fun to see people kind of. It's almost like lights turning on. They'll start to talk to you, and they'll feel a little uncomfortable because they're talking to you and you're acting. But then gradually start getting into it, and they realize, oh, I'm not interacting with Mike. I'm talking to the character. So now what do I need from the character? And then you see those wheels start to turn, and then they start feeding off of that and going, well, what can I do? Let's see. If I wanted to interact with this character in a particular way, how would I do that? And you can actually see it's like opening a whole new world to people of, oh my gosh, I didn't realize you could do this in paintball. This is amazing. And that is something that I really enjoy. I really enjoy seeing people kind of grow that way.
I've got the picture up of you at Mech Wars with your cool bitchin' little costume thing with the rockets on your shoulders and everything.
Yeah, the elemental armor. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to be breaking that out again for this year's Mech Wars.
But tell everyone about that character, because that was a unique character, and I remember when I first saw it, there was a little bit of controversy by some of the teams because they didn't understand you were in character. They kept trying to relate to you the first time you played that character as Mike instead of as the character.
Yeah, that character comes from a game called, Battletech or Mech Warrior, and in that game, both the game I'm speaking about and the scenario game we were playing on the field, you had regular players, which were infantry, and then you had mechs, which were walking tanks, and then you had these things that were somewhat in between called elementals or battle armor. Well, I figured I'd make battle armor, and I adjusted the rules for the tanks with Damien, the producer, to develop kind of a way they could play but not unbalance the game. And essentially I was death on legs, so to speak, because I had the survivability of a vehicle but the mobility of infantry. And a lot of people didn't realize that you could go that way in a scenario game, and the limit in any scenario game is basically your imagination. So I came up with that role and that I don't know if you call it a vehicle or what, but and developed it during that game, and some things worked and some things didn't. And by the end of the game on Sunday, people were understanding what I was doing, and they were kind of playing along with it. And pretty soon I had 4 or 5 guys in battle armor running around with me, and we had a great time.
That was a great game. It's always better when you have friends together too to play with.
Yeah, and along with that was just for the costuming. The character himself, and I don't remember his name, but he was. If you know anything about the storyline, elementals are genetically bred to be what they are. They're very arrogant, they're very powerful, but their biggest weakness is their sense of invulnerability. So once people could key in on that, then as a character, they could come up and interact with me and present kind of an alternate face and negotiate with me for props or challenge me to a one-on-one battle and so on. And then once people realized that, then it brought a whole new dimension to the game.
Where do you envision the guild going? What do you envision for the future of the guild?
What I would like to see the guild, I would like to see various sub-guilds start. I'd like to see the guild be the umbrella organization and have guilds for like medieval times, prehistoric times, modern times, post-apocalyptic, cyberpunk, diesel punk, any name whatever genre of storytelling you enjoy. I would love to have groups within the guild devoted to nothing but that. And then within those have guilds devoted to costuming, to doing props, to making armor. I'd like to get a functional vacuum forming brigade, I guess, so they could actually start churning out armor. And basically just become a repository for people that want to get into the role-playing aspect of scenario paintball.
There's a lot to... One of the reasons that I got into role-playing the first couple times I played with you was... because I just didn't have the money to play. I just couldn't afford paint, and I could get to the game, but I couldn't afford to do anything there. And it was a lot of fun. It was difficult because when you get into character, you really get into character. But it was a lot of fun. It was very challenging.
Yeah, it is. A lot of people think it's easy. You just put on a costume and walk around, and it's more to it than that. I started doing the same thing. When I didn't have a lot of money, I would go to the games and role play. Well, now I haven't taken a paintball marker out on the field in probably a year and a half. I usually take a rubber knife or just something where I can tag somebody, and that's where I get all my kills, I guess you'd call them. And it's added another challenge tactically, at least for me. But it's now I'm let's face it, I'm getting older and I can't run around with the kids, but I can still role play and add an element to the game that maybe they can't think of, and it makes it better for everybody involved.
Exactly, exactly. So how do people find out? How do they join the guild? Where do they find out more information about the guild?
They can go to, let's see, Facebook has a really strange way of doing their URLs, but essentially if they go to Facebook and look up Scenario Role Players Guild, it'll be taken to their main page, and then they can click right at the top and go ahead and just join the guild. And it's open to just about anybody. Especially people with creativity or who want to broaden their horizons.
Yeah, you've already got 77 members, and I know a lot of these guys, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of amazing. I'm looking at the members right now, and I figured I'd maybe get 10 or 15 people. I didn't realize this many people would want to get into it.
Of course, I'm on the top of the list. You see that? LJ Marcus is on the top.
Of course.
Don't tell them it's because I'm using it for my page.
Yeah, sure. Well, no problem. Do what you got to do.
So what's the next event that you're going to be at, that there's going to be some more role-playing that people can come and maybe hit you up ahead of time? I know you guys are talking about on the guild page, you guys are talking about it.
We are going to be actually rolling out as the guild, with people knowing we're of the Scenario Guild, at Mech Wars 4 Iron Sky, which is May 20th through the 22nd at Combat Zone in Warville. And we're going to be working in the story with Damien, and we've got role players on every aspect of the field, both teams. So we're all going to be out there just having a blast.
Awesome. I think that's about it. What else do you want to say? Who do you want to talk to? Want to say hi to your mom, your cat?
I got cats, and they're all here. I got to fight them off the desk. I would like to say for players that are thinking about it is don't ever be afraid to branch out and get out of your comfort zone. I had at the last game that I was at, which was Medieval Mayhem Scottish Rite, I had a player who came up to me, regular street clothes. He wanted to know, how do I do role-playing? How do I do role-playing? So I gave him a couple of my props, and he had a robe, just a purple robe. Well, he hit me up a couple of times during the game, and I gave him some pointers. And pretty soon he had developed this character as a wizard. And we had a character out there playing a dragon, and he ended up being the only person on the field who could tame the dragon. And at the end of the game, as a reward, because he'd gone from basically newbie to seasoned role player in the span of 24 hours, I gave him one of my real swords. And I told him that he had earned that. And it was a fantastic feeling. But all it took for him to move from just a regular player to a seasoned role player in full costume and props is just to come up and express an interest. So please, if anybody wants to come up and find out what it's like to role play, I do seminars at all the games, and realistically, it doesn't take anything more to role play than just an imagination and maybe a hat, and you can live out an entire event in somebody else's shoes. It's really a lot of fun. I would encourage everybody to try it.
Heck yeah, it's even from my perspective, not doing it. I mean, I haven't done it in a long time. I just walked up and said, hey, I want to role play, and the producers will almost always give you props. If you don't have any, they'll throw a couple in there and get you going. And it's really easy to find the Scenario Role Players Guild on Facebook. Just start typing in Scenario, and it pretty much pops up in the top of the list. And
Great.
There's a discussion
Excellent.
on there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad. I want people to be able to find it pretty easy. We have a lot of fun. We're really kind of goofy and stupid, but we try to go out there and have a good time and add something to the game. So I really encourage people to try it out.
Well, cool. Thanks a lot for coming on the show, and we'll be out in May. We'll take some videos of your props and people get to see you live for once instead of the mystery guy behind the microphone.
Yeah, come on out. It's a lot of fun. Thank you for having me. I really had a good time.
Thanks again, Mike, and we'll see you in May at Mech Wars.
You bet. We'll see you there.